We are also going to send out a copy of the slides and the link to this recording later this afternoon. If you ever miss one of our programs, or you want to rewatch something, or you want to share a program with somebody that you come in contact with, please visit our YouTube channel, and all of our email addresses where the link straight to our YouTube channel, or you can go to YouTube and type in James L. West. And since July, we have been recording a lot of our educational programs, and we just download those to our YouTube channel. So they're available at any time, kind of on demand for those that need them or want to rewatch a program. And please feel free to share that information with anybody. We are so proud and so glad to be able to offer our programs free of charge to the community. And we want to make sure and spread the information and make sure it's available to anybody that needs it and the time that they need it as well. This program today is part of a series that we're doing every Thursday at 11 about changing our thinking. We are all prone to negative thoughts at times and thought patterns that can really influence the way we behave and the decisions we make and the choices that we make. So we're going to dive into about 10 different distorted or twisted thought patterns and be able to identify those in ourselves, and how do we change those thought patterns so we can have better outcomes, essentially. These distorted thought patterns, it changes our worldview or our perspectives on our own worlds. We might misinterpret a situation, misinterpret somebody's actions. And it's usually in a negative way when we do that. And our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and our behaviors are heavily influenced or even caused by what our thought patterns are. So when we have negative thought patterns or distorted thought patterns, that can cause real damage in our lives. You know, our distorted thoughts can turn our perceptions to one-sided. They can be inaccurate. They can be unfair. They can be untrue, false, or bitter. And they also can cause depression, anxiety, self-criticism, low self-esteem, hopelessness, you name it. So if I know my thought patterns can cause my perception of my world to be one way, and the feelings that I have and attitudes that I have, I want to be able to change those thought patterns to a better outcome, better perceptions on my world and people and myself, and also have better emotions and behaviors. And that's the main goal of this series that we're doing. You know, I mentioned we all have distorted or negative thoughts from time to time. But if these thoughts, these negative thoughts and distortions are reinforced, or they continue without being challenged, they can cause real anxiety and depression, poor performance, and difficulties in our relationship, and also add extra undue stress in our lives. And we don't need extra undue stress in our lives. Today, we're really going to talk about labeling. And if you were with us last week, we did talk about this all or nothing thinking, kind of that black and white thinking. Labeling has a lot to do with that because it's an extreme form of it. And labeling is a cognitive distortion when we generalize by taking one characteristic or one behavior or one incident from a person or of a person and apply it to that whole person or to their entirety. And what this does is it reduces the person to that label we have either given to ourselves, because we label ourselves quite often, but we also label others. And I think that's where the real damage happens, because we're just reducing either ourselves or that person to this label that's usually formed in an unfalse world, or a false world, excuse me. We view the entire person through that label that we've given them, and then we start to filter out any kind of contradictory information, any other characteristics or behaviors that don't fit into that box of that label we've already put them in, or under that umbrella of that label we've put them in, or put ourselves in, right? And then we start to believe that that label is the best descriptor for that person. And these labels at times can leave no room for change. And a lot, when we label ourselves, I think that tends to happen more when I start to label myself as a failure or I'm stupid or whatever it is. that's when then there's no room for change. And that can be very damaging. So what labeling tends to sound like? What we will say or what we tell ourselves. She's frequently running late. She's irresponsible. Well, he spoke curtly to us. He's just a jerk. My spouse doesn't listen when I talk. They are uncaring. I lost my patience with my loved one. I am just a bad caregiver. I messed up that report. I am stupid. My brother is the favorite. I failed that test. I am a failure. I forgot to call my mom. Oh, I'm such a bad daughter. Well, he gave in to her. He's just a pushover. And I'm mad at my loved one because they won't cooperate in the shower. I've lost my patience. I've lashed out because I'm an angry person. So we see the labels there at the end, a situation or an incident, or maybe even it is a characteristic or a trait. But then there's the label at the end, right? So rather than looking objectively at a situation and describing the specific behavior or the specific circumstance, we tend to assign a negative and highly emotional label to ourselves and others. So the danger of this is, we can already kind of tell, but when we start to label ourselves, we only see ourselves as that label, and it can be that I'm a bad caregiver, I'm impatient, I'm a bad caregiver. I keep lashing out, I keep losing my cool, I'm a bad caregiver. You start to believe that that label is all you are capable of, and you continue to act in the same manner. So it stunts our creativity and our ability to problem solve and think about things objectively, which leads to depression and hopelessness, and oftentimes despair. It also maintains or continues to fuel painful emotions that we maybe have had for a long, long time. Maybe those painful emotions came from labels we've labeled ourselves from when we were children, or maybe labels that other people have put on us from when we were children. And then as we continue to label ourselves, it just maintains or fuels those emotions. When we label others, what we're doing, making a broad assumption about somebody based on a trait or maybe an isolated incident, or it's a few incidences that have happened, it is almost always wrong when we do that. That broad assumption, we're not taking in the whole picture. It leads to unfair perspectives of that person, and it often examines the relationship that you have with them, or you don't have a relationship with them anymore. And this also maintains and fuels painful emotions. If you maybe already kind of have a difficult relationship, and then we're continuing to label based on an assumption or based on a one-time thing, then it continues to fuel or maintains painful emotions in that difficult relationship. So great news, though, we do have the power to change our thoughts and to change our labels over time. And really, it's not changing the label, it's getting rid of those labels that we put on ourselves and we put on others. And how we change our thinking, and this goes for all distorted thought patterns, but we have the thoughts, and these are what we tell ourselves. Whether it's a label, or it's an all or nothing thinking, or it's an emotional reasoning, a reasoning that we have, those thoughts that we tell ourselves are going to influence our emotions and our beliefs. Our emotions, our beliefs are going to influence how we behave, because if I have a belief about myself that I'm a bad caregiver or I'm a failure, that's going to influence how I behave and decisions I make all the time. If I'm a bad caregiver, then why bother doing X, Y, or Z? Or if I'm a failure, no wonder they don't want to hang out with me anymore. And then that's going to continue to fuel my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs, and then my actions. So it's really just a vicious cycle. The great thing about this and the empowering thing about this is we have the power to change our thoughts and get rid of labels that we put on ourselves and others. And we're going to talk through ways to do that. And I want you to think about it here is as we start to change our thinking and changing our labels or getting rid of our labels, is the behavior or the reaction, the circumstance or the incident, or even a trait of a person. Somebody might have a short fuse or be kind of quick to get frustrated, and that might be a trait. but the behavior or that reaction or the circumstance is the problem. And I put problem in quotation marks, right? It's not the person, right? It's just maybe that behavior or that reaction. It's not the person. One of the examples earlier about what labeling sounds like is, you know, my spouse doesn't listen to me when I talk. They're uncaring. Well, because they didn't listen to me when I'm telling them what about day, doesn't, you know, now I think I've married an uncaring person. The problem was the listening. It wasn't the person. We don't have the whole picture there. Are we taking in, are we being objective and neutral when we're thinking about that situation? Maybe their characteristic is I'm not listening because I need some time to unwind from my day before I can give you my full attention. But I'm not an uncaring person. It's just that circumstance or maybe that time of day that's the problem. It's not the person. So I want you to think of a situation where you've labeled yourself or you labeled somebody else. And I'm going to actually walk through an example that happened last week. So here at the West Center, we have a Texas certified CNA school. So we are able to put people through our CNA school that's actually a dementia enhanced school. So there's a value to that. We provide about 8 hours of additional dementia education to these upcoming and future certified nurse assistants, our CNAs. We have a class of 5 right now. They're actually graduating on Friday. A great group of CNAs that we are employed here at the West Center. But this past Friday, after we did our 8 hours, extra 8 hours of dementia training, I gave them a test. One of the ladies that was doing the test, you could kind of see was having a harder time with the test. And what happened was after everybody did the test, then we went over the test together as a class. And I had them grade their own tests there. And you could see as we were grading the test, she was getting more and more upset. She actually, when we finished grading the test, the class was over. The regular instructor did have a couple of things that she needed to talk about, but this particular student got up, stormed out of the class. She was obviously upset because she had failed the test and she was verbalizing her frustration to herself, but it was out loud. She had said, I'm a failure, I failed this test, I am stupid. Why would I even bother coming back to class next week? So her thoughts really influenced her emotions and her behaviors. And there's some real consequences there. If she doesn't show up to class on Monday, she's out. She's not an employee at the West Center, and she certainly didn't pass the CNA class. So her whole career trajectory has stopped because of one test, right? So this is our example. So talk to her and just think objectively, put yourself in that situation. Without bias or detaching yourself from the situation, the circumstance, the behavior, think about it in just the facts, okay? So for that student, I failed one test. And the fact is, yeah, I'm disappointed and I'm mad at myself. There's feelings there, but that is the truth. That's disappointing. It was a long day. It was Friday afternoon at the end of a very long week. She's an older student, so learning styles are different than what they used to be for her. And this is brand new material for these students as well. And they also have not had as much time to practice this particular material as they have other material like their CNA nursing skills, basic nursing skills. So that is objectively, that's the circumstance, right? That was the contributing factor to maybe failing the test. So at this point, now we want you to challenge those thoughts and challenge that label you put on myself, or she put on herself, that she's a failure. I failed one test. So does this one test make me a failure? I'm disappointed and I'm mad at myself. Is there room for improvement or change? And I put here, if I believe I can improve, I will. If I believe I can't, it will be much harder for me to succeed. So everyone else knows I failed and they're probably laughing at me or they pity me, right? Well, is that really true? Is my thought, because I've labeled myself, but I also started labeling other people too. all the other students in the class, right? Well, is this really true? And I put in there, because I know this, those students are very understanding and supportive, and they want to see her succeed. Right? So I am stupid and I will amount to nothing. So does this one test or this one class or one circumstance, whatever, does this dictate my worth as a person? And why should I bother coming back to class next week? Well, should she let one test change her career path? So we have the facts, the situation, the incidents, but then we've got to start challenging those labels and those thoughts that we put on ourselves and others, right? So now we want to choose a new thought without a label. Not a different label, but without a label. So I failed the test, okay? What this means is that I need to study more and start asking more questions when I don't understand. Problem solved. Failing in life, however, when I go back to that original thought and original label that I'm a failure, well, failing in life, that's a harder problem to solve. Mm-hmm. And that's not based in reality. It's just not true. So I'm going to go quickly walk through just another example of what this kind of looks like. But the label is, my brother is the favorite. So, I think, and this might be a label you've had all your life, or that other people might jokingly say, whatever. The label is, my brother is the favorite kid, the favorite child, right? So the thoughts are, Dad would rather spend time with my brother and would rather have my brother give him care than me. So the feelings, that makes me sad, it makes me depressed, bitter towards both my brother and my dad, detached from those relationships, and have low self-esteem. The consequences of these are, I don't see dad or brother as much because I have these feelings towards them and towards myself. When I do see them, I get into arguments with them very quickly and very easily, and the relationships with both have become more and more difficult. So let's challenge those thoughts, right? My brother is the favorite, that's the label. Well, is this really true? Okay, so a different thought it would be, is dad and brother have a very different relationship, and they have a very close relationship. That's a true fact. That does not mean that dad loves me any less, and that our relationship is just different. So if I think dad would rather spend time with my brother, can I find other activities that me and my dad can do together that we both enjoy? Can I mix things up, right? And then also thinking about, maybe dad is more comfortable getting care from another male, or from just his son, that he does have a different relationship, and there's a different comfort level when it comes to providing care, whether it's helping him get changed in the morning, all the way up to in the bathroom when they're toileting or taking a shower or a bath. So feelings will change because my thoughts are going to change too. So now, instead of sadness and depression and low self-esteem, I have some more self-confidence. I'm being more creative, so I'm trying to think of different activities we can do that are more enjoyable, and we want to spend more time together. I have more acceptance for myself, more acceptance for my brother and my dad, and I'm happier. So the consequences aren't, I don't see them as much, and when I do, we get into arguments, and just kind of the relationship is just so damaged and hard. The new consequences are that I enjoy seeing both my dad and brother. We have more problem-solving talks instead of arguments, and our relationship is improved. And all of this can happen with just changing our thoughts, because it changes our emotions and our feelings, and it changes our behaviors. Now, I will say that changing our thoughts takes discipline, and it takes daily practice. And you don't have to necessarily believe the thought at first. So I want to go back here to the brother and dad situation. My thought is that dad doesn't love me any less. When I first start to tell myself that, I may not believe it fully. But the more I tell myself this, it's going to change my emotions and my behaviors. And that is going to influence, or it's going to change dad and my brother's behaviors too, because my behavior is changing, and I'm going to start believing that thought because I'm going to see the evidence of it. That makes sense. So also keep in mind that changing a distorted thought pattern or getting rid of labels, the goal is progress, it's not perfection. We're not going to get it right every time. I think especially when it comes to labeling, we probably do it more often than we realize. So it's the goal is progress, not perfection. And it does take daily discipline to change our thought patterns. And a mistake is a proof of progression. Like I said, we're not going to get it right every time. We may make a mistake, or, oh, I didn't mean to label myself or call myself stupid this time, or really kind of get back down into that vicious cycle. But at least I'm identifying it quicker now. That was a mistake, but that means I'm progressing. We want to live in the present. We can't change the past, nor can we predict the future. And we have power to control our thoughts, change our emotions, and change our behaviors. But also, we don't have to do this alone. If you have trusted people that you can talk to, whether it's a family member or if it's a friend, if it's Holly or myself, it's a counselor, or if it's a clergy member, you name it, somebody that you can trust to help you see different perspectives, or help you maybe gather different data points if we're filtering out stuff that doesn't quite fit that label that we put people in or put ourselves in. They can help us pull out different data points. And that will help us challenge these distorted thought patterns and start changing them to more positive thought patterns and healthy coping strategies. So here is our information. And I want to open it up for any comments, suggestions, stories you want to share, questions on that. Just unmute yourself if you have a thought. Hi, Maria.
Hi. During this whole time you were talking, I was thinking that, you know, my sisters and I we're all very close, but many times I think they kind of put themselves down as far as like when we're doing something for mom. I try to encourage them, because I see that a lot of times they'll say, you do it. Mom would want you to do it. It'd be better if, like when we started the visits, you know, it was like, I had been I usually get the calls. So I had been seeing my mom. You know, we hadn't had visits, but I had been getting the calls, and I would, you know, tell them, I talked to mom today, and it never dawned on me that I could take pictures while I'm talking to her on FaceTime until real late. So then I started doing that. But so as soon as the visits came up, I immediately thought of them, because I thought I've been really lucky because I've been seeing my mom. Of course, I wanted to really get close to her, but you know, and they didn't open up to doing it. And so even for the visit, it was like, well, if we go, you need to go with us too, because she probably doesn't want to see us. She'll want to see you, you know. And it made me feel bad. And I really didn't know how to react to that, because I didn't want to say, I wanted them to feel comfortable going, but so I didn't really know how to respond to that, except to keep encouraging. And I did go with them and all that kind of stuff, you know, but I need to know how to help them to know that, you know, mom wants to see all of us. And they say, well, mom probably won't even know us, you know, because, you know, we haven't seen her and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, and I guess it made me think, because Martha did just have a visit yesterday with mom, and she was very sad that mom slept the whole time. And so as you're talking, I'm thinking about how sad she was. But, you know, she was still there with her, and she combed her hair. And I hadn't, yesterday when I saw the pictures and she sent it, and, you know, mom with her hair all down, and then a picture of mom with her braided hair up, you know, and I've been thinking a lot about that. But as you're talking, it made me think more about what I should say to Martha, and I will today, now that I got this. So I'm so glad that I joined you, because I didn't want her to be sad. And now I'm thinking, you know, she was there with mom. She got to touch her. She did her hair. I'm sure mom felt that, you know, and that was probably really good for my mom, even though she was sleeping. And I just want to mention that to Martha, but I need some more help on what else I can do to. Anna is pretty much just like, you know, because when mom started with all of this, even though we all, you know, got a lot of bad stuff for mom, I guess Anna got the worst of it, and I think she still has a problem with all of that, and that's why she really doesn't, you know, come and visit.
And I hear, just hearing your description of it, I hear a lot of grief from, I mean, the grieving from you and Martha and Hannah. That will, it just adds complexities to the whole situation, right? And everybody has a different relationship with each person. How are we coping with coming back to visit? How are we grieving through this lost time? You know, Holly talks about this on a program she did yesterday. And I love that your automatic kind of reaction to it is, I just got to encourage them, because I want Holly to speak to this too, because I think that's the best thing. I mean, being honest about feelings and facts, but just encouraging them, saying, you know, it's not, your mom might have slept the whole time, and that is disappointing and it is sad, but you got to connect with her on the way you could and the way she could right now.
Right.
So speaking to the moment, maybe. Holly, you have some insight.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm glad you hit on the grief part of it, because everybody is in a different kind of state of grief all the time when we have somebody with dementia, but then you add the current circumstances to it, and we really are. And part of that is also self-preservation of maybe wanting you to be there, because it is, you know, I may be the one that's going to go up and visit with her now, but I need to be able to come back down and you be here, so that we can then be together to talk about, so that you help hold me up, because I know I'm going to have a hard time. And I know y'all have had that bond, and you've been on this journey together as sisters. And that may be part of it too, but also that's them also working through their own issues or anything that they may have with their own relationship with her. And that's fear talking. A whole lot of that is fear, because nobody wants to go in and see their mom or their dad or their husband or wife and they don't know who they are. And so part of that is fear. You go first, and then you come back to report to us. And so part of it, I think, is self-preservation. And then because you are the one to kind of, and I've got a long history with y'all, and you know, you're the one that kind of, you know, I'll go in, we'll make the plans and then execute and then report back. And you're very good at doing that. And so it's, everybody kind of falls back into those roles that we've always had in a family, especially when we're under high stress. We fall back into roles that we know. But I would encourage you, if you can, you know, if you can come together and make it where like one can come up and one be down here, even if you're sitting in the car waiting on them, so that you can, okay, let's go get some coffee and talk about this, and kind of decompress together after a visit.
Yeah, that is kind of what we did when we had the first window visit.
Okay.
Exactly what we did, because they were saying, you know, you go, and I really wanted them to go, and so finally I said, okay, and they says, well, you come with us too, because she probably won't know me, but she'll know you. So we did, you know, we all three went, and then afterwards we did. So that would, yeah, that's a really good suggestion, because that did work real well.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Maria. And it is 11:31. Unless there are any other questions or comments or somebody that wants to share, then I will make sure that you get the slides and a copy of this recording this afternoon. But we'll stay on as long as we need to for somebody that wants to share or have questions. But we appreciate y'all being here too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.